Milo had never been one to cause a fuss. He wasn't the type of dog to bark wildly at the postman or dig holes in the backyard. He was gentle, some might even say delicate. His long, silken ears brushed the floor when he walked, and his soft brown eyes held the kind of quiet wisdom usually found in dogs far older than he. His previous family, though once adoring, had found themselves with too many complications: divorce, a move, and then a new baby with allergies. It all happened so fast. One day he had a warm bed by the heater, and the next, he was riding in the back of a car to the local animal shelter. The shelter was loud. Even after weeks of being there, Milo flinched at every sudden bark, every metallic clang of kennel doors closing. Some dogs paced constantly, others growled or cried for attention. But Milo remained still, lying on his blanket, watching the world go by through the tiny opening in the kennel door. Volunteers passed by often, sometimes offering a treat or a quick scratch behind his ears. They all said the same thing: "Sweet boy. Such a gentle soul. Someone will take him home soon." But no one did. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. He watched younger, bouncier dogs get adopted with wagging tails and excited yips. People came and went. Families with kids, couples looking for a new pet, retirees just browsing. Many stopped at Milo's kennel, drawn in by his soulful eyes and soft coat, but they'd shake their heads after a moment. "Too calm," some said. "He doesn't seem playful enough." Or, "I want a dog that'll jog with me." He didn't understand. He hadn't changed. He was the same Milo, quiet, affectionate, well-mannered. He just wasn't what most people were looking for. Then, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. The shelter was unusually quiet. Only one volunteer was on shift, and the air smelled of wet fur and disinfectant. That's when she walked in, Anna. She was wrapped in a pale blue coat, her short hair damp from the rain. Her steps were hesitant, like she wasn't sure she should be there at all. But there was something about her, something in the way her eyes lingered on each dog, as though she wasn't just looking, she was searching. Milo sat up in his kennel, his tail giving a soft thump on the blanket. Anna stopped in front of him and crouched down, meeting his gaze. She didn't say anything for a while, and neither did he. They just watched each other, like two old souls recognizing something familiar. "You're very quiet," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I like that." She reached through the kennel bars and gently touched his nose. Milo didn't move. He didn't need to. The next hour passed in a blur. Paperwork, questions, a trial walk. Milo walked beside her without pulling, without straying. Just content to be close. By the time they reached the front desk again, Anna had made her decision. "I'll take him," she said simply. "His name is Milo, right?" That was how it began. Anna's home was small but cozy, a one-bedroom cottage tucked away on a quiet street lined with tall trees and older houses. The moment Milo stepped inside, he knew things were different. There was no frantic noise, no shouting or clatter of kids running around. Just soft lighting, the faint smell of cinnamon from a candle burning on the table, and a fireplace waiting to be lit. His new bed was beside the hearth, layered with a thick blanket and an old plush toy shaped like a squirrel. Anna had thought of everything. That first night, Milo curled up in the bed, his body unwinding like a spring finally loosened. Anna sat in the armchair nearby with a cup of tea in hand, glancing at him now and then as if still unsure if he was real. She hadn't had a dog in years, not since her childhood. Loneliness had crept into her life quietly, especially after losing her mother the year before. Her days were spent working from home and her evenings were quiet, echoing with memories. Now there was a heartbeat in the room besides her own. In the days that followed, Milo settled into the rhythm of his new life with surprising ease. He never barked, never begged. He followed Anna from room to room, always at a respectful distance, always watching. He wasn't clingy, just present. It was comforting in a way she hadn't expected. Their walks were slow and steady. Anna wasn't one for long treks or busy parks, but Milo didn't mind. He seemed to enjoy sniffing at every tree, every post, every corner of the neighborhood like it was new and sacred. They became familiar sights on their street, Anna in her soft scarf, Milo trotting beside her like an old friend. Neighbors began to notice. One morning, the mail carrier knelt down and gave Milo a scratch behind the ears. "What a calm little guy," she said. "Good choice, Anna." The quiet life suited them both. But life has a way of shifting, even when you least expect it. One afternoon, as a storm rolled in and the sky darkened to a moody gray, Anna and Milo found themselves caught in the rain on their walk home. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Anna, caught off guard by the sudden downpour, tried to hurry, but Milo froze halfway across the park. His body trembled, ears flat against his head. "Come on, Milo," she coaxed gently, tugging the leash, but he wouldn't move. Another clap of thunder, and this time Milo bolted, not forward, but sideways, into the bushes. Anna's heart leapt into her throat. She let go of the leash instinctively, calling his name as he vanished into the undergrowth. She spent the next hour soaked to the bone, searching, calling, hoping. The storm passed, but there was still no sign of Milo. By the time night fell, Anna returned home, defeated, her eyes swollen from crying. She left the porch light on, the door unlocked, and a trail of treats leading to the yard gate. Her heart felt heavier than it had in a long, long time. Milo, gentle Milo, had vanished. The night Milo disappeared was the longest of Anna's life. She lay awake on the couch near the fireplace, the leash still coiled in her hand, listening for any sound outside, any soft paw step, any scratching at the door. The silence that had once comforted her now felt unbearable. By morning, her garden was still untouched. The trail of biscuits remained undisturbed. Milo hadn't come home. Anna didn't waste a second. She printed flyers with his picture and posted them all over the neighborhood, on lampposts, community boards, and in the windows of corner stores. She knocked on doors, asking everyone she could find, voice shaking as she repeated, "Have you seen this dog? His name is Milo. He's very gentle, probably scared." The responses were sympathetic, but no one had seen him. Days passed. Rain returned. Anna kept walking the streets, calling his name, carrying a blanket that smelled of home in case she found him shivering somewhere. Meanwhile, Milo was wandering the outskirts of the neighborhood, disoriented and frightened. The storm had scattered his sense of direction, and the rumble of thunder still echoed in his mind. He had darted instinctively, propelled by a deep-rooted fear he hadn't felt since his shelter days. Now, soaked and muddy, he sought cover wherever he could, under hedges, beneath parked cars, or behind garden sheds. He wasn't used to being alone. Not anymore. At night, he curled up in quiet corners and dreamed of warmth, of his bed by the fireplace, of the scent of cinnamon candles, of Anna's hand resting gently on his back. The city sounded different when you were lost. Every noise felt louder, every light too bright. Milo flinched at honking cars and avoided people. He didn't know who to trust. Then, on the fourth day, something changed. A young boy named Theo spotted him near a drainage ditch at the edge of the park. Milo was sniffing at a damp cardboard box, his ribs beginning to show beneath his fur. Theo had seen the flyers Anna posted. His mother had shown him one while walking to school. "That's him," Theo whispered. "That's Milo." He didn't approach immediately. Instead, he backed away and ran home as fast as he could, dragging his mother along behind him. It took half an hour for them to return, and when they did, Theo carried a bag of warm chicken from his lunchbox. Milo was still there, tired, wary, and crouched behind the same patch of bushes. He lifted his head when he caught the smell, eyes dim but alert. Theo knelt on the ground a few feet away, opening the bag slowly. "It's okay, buddy," he said softly, holding out a piece of chicken. "You're safe now. We'll take you home." Milo didn't move at first. But the smell of food and the boy's calm presence nudged at something deep inside, something older than fear. Trust. He stepped forward, cautiously, inch by inch, until his nose touched Theo's outstretched fingers. The moment he took the chicken gently from the boy's hand, Theo's mother dialed the number on the flyer. Anna answered on the first ring. Anna couldn't believe it. She nearly dropped the phone when she heard the words, "We found Milo." She arrived at the park in record time, heart pounding. When she spotted him, muddy, thinner, but unmistakably him, sitting next to Theo with his head in the boy's lap, her knees buckled. She ran to him, dropped to the grass, and scooped him into her arms. Milo whimpered once and pressed his face into her chest. "I'm so sorry," she whispered over and over, tears soaking into his fur. "I should have protected you." Theo watched quietly, a small smile on his face. He's a really good dog. Anna nodded, clutching Milo like she'd never let go again. Yes, he is. The first few days back home were spent recovering. Milo barely left his bed, and Anna didn't push him. She cleaned him gently, fed him small portions, and stayed close. She lit the fireplace again and placed his bed even closer to the hearth. At night, she'd fall asleep on the couch beside him, a hand resting in his fur. But slowly, Milo came back to himself. He began to follow Anna again, first just into the kitchen, then back to her little home office where he'd lie beside her chair. His tail wagged when she came in the front door, his appetite returned, and one sunny afternoon, he even trotted across the yard chasing a butterfly. Their bond had deepened. He wasn't just a companion now, he was family. Anna learned to read his moods more carefully, paying attention when he paused during walks or seemed hesitant near certain paths. She adjusted her routine, avoiding the park during stormy weather and carrying treats and a raincoat for Milo at all times. One quiet evening, about 2 weeks after he'd returned, Milo did something he hadn't done before. He climbed onto the armchair with her. Carefully, as if unsure it was allowed, he placed his front paws on the cushion and nestled into the crook of her arm. Anna froze, stunned by the gesture. Then she smiled and gently pulled a blanket over them both. "You missed this too, didn't you?" she whispered. Milo sighed and closed his eyes. That night, as the fireplace crackled and shadows danced across the walls, Anna realized just how much her life had changed. Before Milo, the silence had been lonely. Now, it was peaceful. But fate had one more surprise in store. A letter arrived in the mail the next morning, a handwritten note in flowing script from the shelter. It wasn't a typical message. It read, "Dear Anna, we're starting a new volunteer program for experienced adopters, pairing gentle dogs with quiet homes. You and Milo were our inspiration. Would you be interested in helping other dogs like him? Warm regards, Jane, shelter coordinator." Anna read the letter twice, then looked down at Milo, who was watching her from his bed, head tilted. "What do you think?" she asked, her smile growing. "Should we help someone else find peace, too?" Milo thumped his tail softly. Spring unfolded gently over the town, brushing the trees with fresh green and lacing the air with birdsong. The world seemed to breathe easier, and in the quiet little cottage at the edge of the neighborhood, so did Milo and Anna. After receiving the shelter's letter, Anna spent several days thinking it over. It wasn't a light decision. Her life had become calm again, soft and still, like a favorite book reread by candlelight. But something about the idea called to her, like a voice she hadn't realized she missed. Helping other dogs like Milo? Giving them peace, patience, safety? Milo had been her answer to loneliness. Maybe now they could be the answer for someone, or something else. So she said yes. The shelter welcomed her with open arms. Jane, the shelter coordinator, greeted Anna at the door with a warm hug and an even warmer smile. "I had a feeling you'd come," she said. "And I think we've got just the right match for you." They walked through the familiar halls, past kennels filled with barking, pacing, and pleading eyes. Milo stayed close to Anna's side, unusually alert. This place was part of his past, but now, perhaps, it would become something else entirely. They stopped at a corner kennel, where a small, wiry terrier mix was curled tightly against the back wall. His coat was tangled and dusty, his eyes wary. "His name's Oliver," Jane said softly. "Found tied to a gate on the outskirts of town. Skittish. Doesn't trust anyone yet." Anna knelt slowly, her fingers wrapping around the edge of the kennel bars. "Hi, Oliver," she said gently. "You don't have to be scared. We're just saying hello." Milo stepped forward too, his head tilting curiously. He didn't bark or whine, just stood there, his calm presence like a soft blanket. Oliver opened one eye and flicked his ears. It was a start. Bringing Oliver home was different than it had been with Milo. He didn't trust easily. He hid under the kitchen table, flinched at sudden sounds, and refused to be touched for the first 2 days. But Anna didn't rush him. She'd learned from Milo that healing had no clock, and that some hearts opened only in whispers, not in shouts. Milo, too, seemed to understand. He never crowded the little terrier, never approached unless invited. But he was there, always. Sitting nearby, offering silent company, the way he used to do for Anna. By the end of the first week, Oliver had begun to relax. He followed Milo at a distance on short walks and watched Anna from across the room with cautious curiosity. One night, he even fell asleep in the same room as them, just a few feet away. That was the moment Anna knew this would work. Over the following weeks, their home blossomed with a quiet energy. Oliver learned the language of safety, the rustle of treat bags, the sound of Anna's slippers on the floor, the glow of the fireplace in the evenings. And Milo? Milo was like a mentor now. Patient, present, proud. They became a trio, 3 quiet souls stitched together by trust, each step forward a shared victory. Word spread at the shelter. Other staff and volunteers heard about Milo's influence on shy dogs and called it something magical. "We should just clone him," one of them joked. Milo the comfort dog. Anna laughed at that. But deep down, she agreed. There was something special about him, his unshakable calm, his quiet presence, his understanding of fear. So she and Milo began visiting the shelter once a week. Not to adopt, but just to sit with the anxious dogs. Milo would walk past the kennels like a quiet guardian. Sometimes, a frightened pup would inch forward, just to be near him. Sometimes, one would mirror his calm posture. One by one, the shelter dogs began to change. And slowly, so did Anna. The woman who once lived in silence, drinking tea alone by the fireplace, now spoke softly to new volunteers. She found herself smiling more. She made friends at the shelter, people who loved animals just like she did. She even started a small blog called Milo's Mornings, where she posted pictures of the dogs they worked with and wrote about healing and second chances. She never expected so many people to read it. Soon, emails poured in. Messages from readers across the country who said the stories gave them hope. That Milo reminded them of their own dogs. That they, too, had known loneliness, and now felt a little less alone. One message in particular stood out. It read, "Dear Anna, I read about Milo's story on your blog. I've been struggling with anxiety and haven't left my house much this past year. But your stories gave me courage. Tomorrow, I'm going to visit a shelter. Maybe I'll find my own Milo. Thank you." Anna wiped a tear from her cheek and turned to look at Milo, who lay stretched out by the fire, Oliver curled at his side. She reached over and scratched his head gently. "You've changed more than just my life, sweet boy," she said. Milo blinked up at her, content. Months passed, and the seasons turned again. Flowers bloomed in the garden, and laughter began to fill the home. Sometimes it came from Anna. Sometimes from visitors, volunteers dropping off donations, kids reading books to the dogs as part of a new community program. Even Theo and his mom visited now and then. They brought treats and called Milo a legend. Oliver, once a trembling shadow, now barked happily when Anna came home from the store. He even learned to fetch, though he always made Milo do the running part. Peace returned to the house, but it wasn't the same kind of quiet as before. It was alive. It was filled with the gentle sounds of healing, the snore of dogs dreaming, the clink of food bowls, the creak of the armchair as Anna sat down with a book and 2 dogs curled at her feet. And every evening, as the sun dipped low and the fire crackled to life, Milo would lie on his blanket near the hearth, his eyes soft and full of knowing. He had been lost once. Forgotten, left behind, but now, he had something rare. Not just a home, a purpose.